Good morning, Mon. Isaac, good morning. Evan, how are you? Roy Nicholas, good morning. Dave, good morning. Mariva, top of the morning. Maladay, how are you guys? Sorry about not being here yesterday. We were getting the car's emissions tested in the morning, so. Sebastian, good morning. Jordan, how are you, man? So, if I'm being honest, I don't see a lot to do today. There's just not much that's set up that's not really extended. And then earnings actually this year have been so-so. They've just haven't been all that. On one end, you've got a Netflix, right? And you were losing the 50-day and then trying to reclaim it only to reject the next 2 days. So this week, you're kind of losing the 50. And, looks like maybe a bigger base incoming. And then you've got a Tesla, right? And then on the flip side of that, you've got something like Google, right, up. But otherwise, there's nothing here that's super impressive. This one probably goes to a high. There's nothing in the market where I look at it and go, man, I got to own that. That's not really the case. Yeah, earnings season has been so-so, right? Google good, NOW good. But on the flip side, Netflix bad, Tesla rough, IBM rough, EMPH rough, although this one already sucked. GEV was good. GEV was good, but it was already extended, right? Like, I don't know how I would have bought this thing, up 7 times average true range from the 50. Yeah, I find some value in COT data. Yeah, I find COT data valuable, when I'm thinking about groups. But COT data, only relates to futures markets, which I don't trade. So, I think about it in terms of groups. I wouldn't use the word tighten stops. I would just say trail your winners normally. Like, don't over tighten. Like, if you were normally using the 50 or 20 simple moving average, depending on how long you've been in the trend, like, don't tighten it up to like the 5-day. right? Like I wouldn't tighten stops like that. I would just be more cautious on new exposure. Oh yeah, if you've been in GEV since last earnings report, then that's perfect. Right? I thought this had a really nice look right in here. Yeah, silver, silver kind of looks to be it's funny because silver's more crowded according to COT data, and it's kind of the stronger of the bunch. But my guess is that if gold starts to come down, so would silver. And gold broke yesterday's lows, and we are following through today a little bit. So, yeah, Meta's fairly tight. Again, Meta looks okay. Dash looks okay. But when I look at Meta, although I know it's a good company, I think it can go higher. I believe it in time will go higher. But, do I really want to own a stock that moves 1.85% per day and act like I'm excited? No, I'm not excited to own Meta. Not that I don't like making money. I do. I'd rather make something versus nothing. But I don't get thrilled with the idea of owning Meta. Would I count AEO as an EP today? Yeah, just as much as I would count KSS as an EP the other day too. In other words, no. AEO for two things. One, AEO is not an EP because it's just news that Sydney Sweeney is doing did a photo op for them. That's number one. Number two, it's below the 200. Number three, it's not enough reason to think that this is going to turn the fortunes of American Eagle around. All right? So, no, it's as much of an EP as KSS is an EP. And how'd that pan out? Well, like shit, let me tell you. Affirm looks fine. I thought Upstart looks better. And it's acting better, too. It was a damn good campaign. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Not enough to buy bars of soap, but it was good. No, I know there's the power of Sydney Sweeney. I saw it last night in AEO as this thing was ripping. Yeah, VEEV almost made the watch list last night, but the reason it didn't make the watch list last night is because it moves 2.29% per day. I want to own stocks that move more than 3 and 4% per day if possible. All right, plenty liquid, nice base, but again, this one's got some of the AS syndrome going on, where it gapped up on earnings in May, and then it just went sideways the entire effing quarter. I mean, AS did the exact same shit. And look at what this thing looks like. You gap up in May, effectively, a week apart, and then you do nothing. I mean, I understand VEEV. I get it. But is that really something where you look at this and you go, you gap up on big volume, okay, fine. And here's the thing. You go on a run before the gap up on big volume, and then you go. Right? And then you would gap up on big volume, and then you continue. Like what? Like Sezzle. Right? You're on a move pre-earnings. Right? On a move pre-earnings. Earnings come, gap up on big volume, and then what does it do for the whole quarter? It goes higher. Right? How come VEEV's not doing that? You get a little run before, you get a little bit of a run before earnings, you gap up on big volume. How come you just went sideways? Like, what the fuck? How come, like Toast? Yeah, my Toast. You gap up and then you just go sideways all quarter. You know, AS, you gap up. You're even on a run before your earnings. You gap up on earnings and you go sideways all quarter. Come on now. You know, it's like even Dave, same setup, exact same setup. You're on a run pre-earnings. You gap up on big volume. And then what does Dave do? He keeps going. Right? Isn't this what you want to see? So just my thinking. You know, I like the base in VEEV, but again, you move 2.29% per day, and you haven't gone anywhere all quarter on quote unquote good earnings. Get out of here with that shit. We ain't looking at that. You know, it's like at that point, I saw it last night and I refused to include it in the watch list for those two reasons, because it looked a lot like AS. And I don't want I don't want my money sitting in this. I don't want to be in this. I don't want my money in this. I got too much respect for my own time to be in this crap. Just my thinking. And I hope that my reasoning makes a little bit of sense. App, I talked about this last night. App is, we could call it a setup all we want. I don't have an entry tactic for this. I don't have a setup that I would trade to get myself into this shit. I talked about it on last night's watch list video. If I would just be straight up lying to anybody if I was like, yep, we're going to do XYZ with this. This is a beautiful setup. No, it's not. No, it's not. This thing's been doing absolutely nothing for the last month and change. Again, another complete outright dog shit trender. It could be trending up like this for forever, but I don't want to own this crap. No. I mean, where's the setup? I mean, do we just buy it as a higher low setup because every time it comes down, it builds a higher low? Is that what we're doing? Which I think it's totally fine, in which case our entry is really over 51.86. But are we currently in a market where things are going to explode higher from these setups? The reality is I don't think we are, because you need a good market. And I'm not saying that the market's not in an uptrend. I'm saying that the market has already done an uptrend. It's up 40% off the lows, guys, from April. In almost 3.5 months, almost 4 months, the stock market is up 40%. If we're talking about the NASDAQ. Guys, the move is done. The best time to buy stocks. You know when I had the easiest time buying stocks? When the market was down here. Right? Coming out of a correction. Not after a 40% move up. Reddit lagging. NBIS over 55, if I'm not mistaken, was the level that I had mapped out. But again, this thing looks a little sloppy, but yeah. NVTS, I'm not trading that. That's just some NVIDIA, hype name. No, I'm good on this. I'm sure it could go higher if it wanted to. Nah, thoughts on Circle? Nah. Do I really, really want to be in a stock that is this volatile? Moves 14% per day. In 3 days, this thing goes down almost 30%. Nah. There's no clean trend here. There's no real digestion. Recent IPO price 31, goes to 300,000% move, drops 40%, and then just building sideways here. There's no real setup. Again, I'd be lying to you if I looked at this and said, oh yeah, there's a clean setup here. No, there's not. And Reddit, crap. This is another bullshit setup. I mean, not only is it one, lagging, two, it's establishing itself above the 200, but It's crap. UMAC, the drone name. Yeah, I mean, this one's, if the theme is working well, I mean, I guess. But again, do they even report earnings? This company doesn't even report earnings. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it could try and go higher. But, you know, I like companies with good earnings and sales, and this company doesn't report any. Well, that's nice that GEV just got upgraded to 732, but I can't possibly buy it up here. There is no buying a stock up here. This extended from the 50. There's no setup here. BWXT, yeah, I saw this one. This is this provides components to nuclear facilities. Yeah, this is an all right setup, but again, moves 2.6% per day. No, LiDAR is not an EP, man. LiDAR is pump news that they're working with NVIDIA, and there's a 0% chance that NVIDIA is doing anything meaningful with this shitty company. Yeah, no. The stock was at $1.13. Do you really want to come in and buy this thing over a 5-minute opening range break almost at $4? When you look at the history of this stock, you actually want to do that to yourself? Don't do that to yourself. If you respect your money. And if you want to day trade stuff, day trade it. But if you think you're going to start a swing on LiDAR, guys, the best swings come on stocks within leading groups with earnings and sales, not on Sydney Sweeney, whatever covers, magazine covers, and not from some shit stick news that they're fully integrated into. Yeah, it doesn't. This is what's going on here with stocks like OPEN and Donut and GPRO and KSS and LiDAR is high short interest stocks are just being squeezed on the shittiest of news or no news at all. How would you typically handle a small pullback in the market here? I mean, I want a small pullback in the market, and I would try to short a few things, to make some money. And I did. I shorted Donut and I shorted GoPro yesterday, to which I did fine on both of them. But I don't really see, even on shorts, I was short Joby and I'm still short Joby. And, you kind of get this V-shaped recovery right back up to my average. It's like, I thought I was looking good when I shorted this thing on Monday. Tuesday, I'm looking good. And by Wednesday, it's back at my average. I don't like that American Airlines is bringing down the rest. American Airlines, below the 200. This is why I leave stocks below the 200 alone. And then now you're gapping down. And it's also taking a UAL with it and a DAL with it. So I don't view airlines like anything here. Yeah, I like Hut probably the most, bouncing right off the 20. Talked about that one last night. Wolf, I don't like as much, but fine. I'm already long IBIT, yeah. So we're just going to let it work. I'm long IBIT and I'm already trimmed IBIT. So there's really not a whole lot left for me to do there except just let them work. No, I don't trade higher ADR stocks. I own IBIT. This thing moves 2% per day. Not exciting, but it is what it is. I own ARC. That moves 2.4. I own CCL, that's 2.58. I own DraftKings, that's 3.26. I own Oklo, that's 9.05. And I own Toast, that's 3.84. So, in fact, most of my names are actually kind of slow. Not that I want them to be. It's just at the time, those were the best looking setups that I can get myself involved in. I bought Netflix $1,000. This thing moves 2.55 way back here. I owned CrowdStrike. This thing moves, 3.04. I tried to own Hood, but I got shaken out way down here. Heartbreaker. 5%. I owned Palantir at 100. This thing moves 3.77. So, yeah, not always. Yeah, DPST, I think it looks fine. But, it's like we're pulling teeth. We're pulling teeth to find setups. The reality, guys, is I just don't see a lot to do. Clicking the button just because you call yourself a trader is not always the right idea. Right? Sometimes the best thing to do is just nothing. Right? Keep the money you've made, do nothing, let the market give you either a pullback or a handful of, bunch of nice setups. And, if you've already done your job, you should be long a bunch of stuff already. AGX, yeah, I saw that. Kind of sloppy, but kind of sloppy. Don't know that I look at this and find this impressive. Yeah, NOW, great ER. But again, it's a mixed bag out there. For every NOW, there's Netflix, which, by the way, I thought had good earnings report, and there's also IBM, and there's a Tesla. So for every one nice one, there's one or two not nice ones. So again, you're kind of, playing in a pool where there's the stock selection kind of sucks. How do I see casino names like Win in the LVS? They look all right. Maybe its potential bounces off the 20 simple moving average, but it's not that impressive of a setup here. LVS, like the gap up on earnings. I would prefer to just let this one trade, see if it gives you a high volume close today, and then play it off of that. Yeah, if MP can tighten up, yeah, could be a setup. Needs a little bit more digestion for me to take it. Calm. Isn't this like a seafood thing? Yeah, I mean, but most of the time this thing moves like shit. Pretty shitty price action in there. Most of the time this thing just moves like crap. I mean, look at this crappy price action. Earnings gap up, but it's just kind of crappy. Calm as eggs. Well, I don't really got to worry about that. Seems like you wait for a stock to set up near 50-day. No, I like pullback buy setups, so long as we're not overly extended from the 50. Pullback buy setups are totally fine. What would it take me to get involved with open? A few more months of it proving itself. I didn't like Carvana at 10, but I loved it at 50. And then it went to 300. What about AEM and WPM? Are you seeing any issues with those today, Journey? I could tell you a few, and that's that gold's not going higher at the moment. Now, I do prefer to buy my gold names off of ascending moving averages, but, it's just they're like gold itself is just not acting the best, and now you're getting a gap down in gold, and if gold continues lower, then I would suspect the gold miners continue lower. But definitely two more of my favorite names, but I won't be too surprised if we kind of pull back in and, retest a little breakout spot, which is, by the way, retesting breakout spots is not bullish, right? The best horses don't come back to the starting gate. Just want to throw that out there. Yeah, AEO, it obviously cured ED is what it looks like, but it's not an EP. Yeah, cured ED, but not an EP. No, I don't like PayPal here. The very best stocks in the market, the very best stocks in the market aren't still hugging their 200 simple moving average. The very best stocks in the market are well above. And not to mention, this thing also moves super slow. STX far too extended. Too much. Go back, zoom back on the history of STX, and tell me when it's ever made a move like this, ever. The answer is never. And then two, how do you expect really a stock that's never made a move like this to just continue going higher, like exactly like a frozen rope without a bigger digestion? The answer is it could, but it's not really worth you buying and trying to find out with your money. Not to mention, it's still a little bit extended. Yeah, Bloom looks fine. Bloom looks interesting. Oh, wow. And it's ripping here. I don't really see the news. Oracle and Bloom collaborate to deliver power to data centers. Well, that'll do it. Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, high volume close. Yeah, that's not too bad. Looks like it's trying to get going into stage 2 again. Oh, you got in Bloom yesterday? Nice job. Yeah, it looked buyable yesterday for sure. Yeah, NXT looks good, but the solar sector sucks. So, like, how much could you really expect from NXT when it's in such a bad group? Carvana. Let's see how this thing's looking. Yeah, it looks fine. I think Carvana is likely going to all-time high at some point. But again, it doesn't really get me excited. I wouldn't think about the IWM. I don't think IWM's that extended from the 50 personally. And two, this is the most crowded of all of the ETFs. So this one likely is the one that continues to outperform versus the NASDAQ. So if the NASDAQ goes down, I would expect the IWM to probably go down less. And Sedge just kind of looks like it was moving on the fact that it was a high short float, which just kind of sucks for that one. No, dude, you don't want to own Para, do you? Zibby, do you hate your money that bad? Like, unless you're trading with a shitload of money and you like need to get your money into something, right? But this is just a one so far shit trend. I mean, this is going back 2 years almost, right? So shit trend. And two, it moves 1.6% per day. You don't want to do that to your money, dude. CHYM IPO base. I mean, I can't own Chime. I don't really trade IPOs like this. LAC is a laggard, dude. If Albemarle can't get going, why would you want to own LAC? Yes, it's flagging here, but it's, this one probably ends up getting bought out by one of the actual players in the space, Albemarle. And they all look like shit. SQM. Let the group get a whole lot stronger. Guys, when something just gets over the 200 simple moving average like this, if it's a real uptrend, it'll last a year or 2 or 3, right? You don't have to be the first one in the pool on these lithium names. Do I join any subscription service for trading? Yeah, for news, Trade Exchange, for journaling, for a bunch of stuff. Level 2 data. Yep. Harbaugh, RYAAY. Is this an OTC or something? Five letters? No. I mean, it's gone. Right? If you wanted this one, you'd have had to have bought it a few days ago on the gap up for earnings. It's kind of gone here. No, I don't use Bookmap. Ryanair. I don't think I've ever even looked at this one, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm good at catching them, but I don't really like trading the EPs on day one anymore. My favorite thing to do is to wait for high volume closes. They're much easier levels to trade. And if a stock is going higher, it has to get through that level, point blank period, right? So it's like good above, bad below, but you've got a firm level to work with. What's my strategy for buying a setup like Bloom today? I don't have one. If you did, it would be like 5-minute opening range break, but I can't see myself getting into this today. I would just be patient. I would wait for a high volume close if it's the real deal, and then I would get involved like that. Yeah, actually, Amit Rai on from Trader Line talks about them. But they're basically go back and study Sezel and Dave. Very simple. So you get a gap up, and then you get the high volume close on the gap up day, usually on earnings, and then you just mark the close, and then you go to buy it through the close of the either prior day or the day before. So like even my CCL, right? This thing's just trading up, up, up. And then all of a sudden earnings come, right? And then you see the high volume. So I'm basically just marking the close, right? Which is 25.70. And the next day it doesn't take out 25.70, but the day after it does. And that's the day that I buy it, 25.77. And then it's gone. Do I still like TGTX? I like the story on TGTX. Yeah, it's just tightening. I don't know when the hell this thing's going to get going. Maybe it'll be earnings that causes a move. Any GG looks good to you? Think you might need some glasses or LASIK, possibly. No, I'm just kidding. This thing shouldn't look good to you, dude. It shouldn't look good to you. I don't really see what there's to look good about. I mean, it could, it's building some higher lows here. It's tightening, kind of. But, needs a much bigger base, dude. After a move like from, 5 to 55, bigger base, dude. Much bigger base. CCL did not gap over the high volume close the second day. How close to earnings would I buy a stock? About 5 or 6 days. And then I would expect, maybe a run up into earnings if I want to be able to hold it. Yeah, 5-minute opening range break if it gaps over the high volume close. My preference is you don't gap over and you trade through that level. And then you're not the only one seeing that. Bull is garbage, dude. It's total garbage. I don't really know why people pay attention to stocks like this. Could it go higher? Sure. Why you'd pay attention to a stock like this is beyond me. Let it prove itself way more. Way more. Rubric's in a kind of crappy group at the moment. Yeah, over 90 and back above the 50 is pretty important. I would agree. But it's in a pretty crappy group, and CrowdStrike, led and broke the 50 simple moving average yesterday. That's not necessarily what you want to see out of your quote unquote market leaders. And I would consider CrowdStrike one of your market leaders. I still journal. I don't think it's the end all be all for me because it really doesn't, I don't find some big revelation from looking at my journal. But, I do kind of like to know, the actions that I've taken, throughout the course of the month so I can make small adjustments. No. ABVX, they're going to raise money, dude. If you're buying a biotech up 700%, you better know if they need money, dude. So, Jay, if you don't know this, let me just tell you, man, they need money. And you're out here trying to buy it as a high volume close, maybe with 1% of your portfolio. Correct, but it didn't push above on the daily. You guys are looking at a smaller time frame, Barack. So for CCL, right, where was the buying pressure? I mean, just because you traded over it by like 2 pennies, right? It didn't push over that level, right? So here's your high volume close from the day before. Where did it actually trade over that level? Because the level was 25.70. So you're telling me this right here is considered trading over it? A few cents don't matter. You need buying pressure and volume going through the pivot. You know where it came in? The next day. Finviz is good. Yeah, Finviz is good. Just literally go to, so I'll kind of walk you through it. So go on Finviz, click on screener, at the top, you'll see click on groups, go to where it says group, go to the little scroll down bar and go to industry, and then scroll down to 1 week, 1 month, 3 month, and half year performance, and then start to look at the groups which are trading at the top half of those lists. Favorite trading books? How to Make Money in Stocks by Bill O'Neill. Profiting from Bull and Bear Markets by Stan Weinstein. I do for the most part. I share my current journals in the room. NOW building a base, yeah, but it's slow. It's $1,000 stock. Yeah, it needs more work. Right, this thing's got a base basically all across here. Yeah, Minervini's books are good too. Was it Trading Like a Champion and or Thinking Like a Stock Market Wizard? There's another too. Yeah, Lucid, where it traded, what was it, 800 million shares? Yeah, needs to get going over 312. Thoughts on Pays? Too extended from the 50. Way too extended. Thoughts on Sezzle at the 50? Well, if it's going to go, this level's pretty good risk reward. Buying it over prior day high here where it shook out the 50 was not bad. So buying it over 135.94, 136 yesterday was not the worst idea. High volume, HVE is highest volume ever. HVC is high volume close. For instance, like Oster a few weeks ago had, this nice little move up, and then you had the highest volume ever, right? And then you had the closing price of 2036, and then a few days ago when it broke that level, right, where do you think it came back and revisited? Almost to the penny. Curious about where would have been a good spot to get long? Yeah, Gil Morales' book is good too. Shorting with the O'Neill Disciples. That's a good one. Oh, give me a second, guys. Thank you for breakfast, my love. Yeah, I saw that Bloom Energy. It had a nice setup yesterday. I think, kind of chasing gap ups at this juncture in the market, it's not the right idea. My biggest trading inspiration. It's a good question, man. I don't know. I've had a few reasons to be inspired. Christian Koulamagi was one of them. Yeah, Christian, definitely one of them. Not trading inspirations, though, man. I don't know, man. I really don't. My trading inspiration is, I don't know. I don't really have one. Thoughts on NXE? It lags the nuclear group. So you always got to think about it like this, Aldrich. So yes, I see the flag. We can all see the flag. But the real question is, who are the leaders in the nuclear group? Very easy. CCJ, GEV, CEG, VST. Right? There are your leaders. Stocks at new and 52-week high, effectively. So when you look at an NXE and you go, why the hell isn't this thing at $9 at least? Why isn't this thing at $9? And if it's not, it's just lagging already, right? This thing should be at $9, $10 with the others, and it's not. It's lagging. I'm not saying you can't own it. I'm not saying you couldn't manage risk going through the pivot. I'm just saying you're looking at a name that's lagging, and that's not necessarily what you want to do. How long should it take? Depends, man. In a really hot market like we've just had, 5 months. It depends, right? 4 or 5 months, sometimes less. I own Oklo already, so there's not much for me to do with it anymore. I bought it at $58. There's not much for me to do with it here. Just let it work. Yeah, and LEU. That's a good one. Yes, LEU, another leader. But again, this thing had a setup down here. 103 to 250. How about that? Unbelievable. My first trim is about 3 to 5 days after I initiate the position. And it's usually due to the push in the stock. So if we get a good push, then I trim. Yeah, LEU was nuts. Even right here was pretty good. Oklo didn't stop me? No. I had already trimmed on Oklo in this push. I just got done saying it. I trim within day 3 to 5. And so I did trim into this push. And then this pullback here did not stop me. Guys, I just recognized what time it is. Appreciate you guys all for being here as always. I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning, 23 hours. You guys trade them well today, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Zibby, have a good one. Trade them well.